coming and for interacting with you. So now we can sing Jai Radha Mala. Jai Radha Madhava Punya Bihari in chapter 10 to 10, chapter 14, text 8. Now this was a very favorite verse of Srila Prabhupada. He quoted this verse many, many times. And it seems like it's such a wonderful verse that we can't get enough of it. You know, every time we read this verse, and as we, make our journey into Krishna consciousness, we see it in a more deeper way, in a more meaningful way, how it applies to our life, isn't it? How every verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam speaks to us at different times in our life, in different ways, no matter whichever situation we may be. So it's like, there's no end. It's like a bottomless pit. Keep on, reading it and you keep on getting so many wonderful realizations by Srila Prabhupada's wonderful purpose. So I decided to do this because Srila Prabhupada really wanted this verse. All the devotees, as they're dancing, he wants us to really take this verse into our, and actually use it and apply it in our life. So let's read this very popular verse. Chapter 10, chapter 15. And this is the title of the chapter, Brahma's Prayers to Lord Krishna. So here we see in this whole chapter, as you may already know, this is like a divine exchange of love between Krishna and your devotee Lord Brahma. Now we have to understand that Brahma is not under the three modes of material nature. After he did his tapasya for thousands of years, the Lord was so pleased with him, and he actually showed him the Golok Vrindavan, and that the Brahma Samhita is the outpourings of his love and what he saw and his appreciation. It's very, very wonderful prayer. And then after that so the question is, this whole chapter is after the Lila, Brahma's Lila, Brahma Vimohana Lila, where Brahma, he wants to test Lord Vishnu and actually find out whether the little boy, blue boy, is actually Lord Narayan, whether he's supreme. Because we have to understand Brahma came from the lotus navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So who's his Ishtadev? Is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. That's what he's thinking. This is the Supreme Lord, right? And Garbhodakshaya Vishnu extends the entire universe. When Mahavishnu, Krishna expands, Balaram and Balaram expands in all the three different Purushas. So the first Purusha that he expands in order to create this material world is Mahavishnu. And from him, from his pores are coming all these universes like bubbles, like dust coming out of this window, holes in the window. That many thousands and millions, billions of universes. And then Mahavishnu again expands to Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. He enters into every universe. So this Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is extending throughout his form is extending throughout the entire universe. And from that lotus navel, Brahma is appeared. So Brahma is thinking, this is my Lord. So when he sees the Vrindavan Lila and he sees Krishna killing all these demons, he's really confused. He's really wondering, bewildered, because he's thinking, Krishna, he just killed Agaso demon. He's such an immense demon. He gets into his mouth and suffocates him. So, but he's a little boy. How is it possible? So he wants to test him. So Brahma comes under his usury and he gives it over. So Krishna is so Krishna, Brahma is actually beyond the three modes. We understand that. But so why is he coming under the illusory potency? Because Krishna wants us to learn something else. And what does he want us to learn? That even a personality like Brahma is not beyond illusory potency. Even Brahma, something like Brahma. Now we understand who Brahma is. That he's a chief living entity. He's got the greatest security. All the demons, they go and capture, take over all the different planets, heavenly planets. But you'll never hear any demon trying to take over Brahma's planet. He's beyond any fear. He's wonderful family. He's got Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning and life. And he manages, he's in charge, he's producing all these different living entities. And so therefore he's the father of all living. He's the head of a sampradaya. Brahma, Madhav, Gauriya Sampradaya. And then Krishna instructs him from within the heart and gives him the entire Vedas. In other words, he's the biggest, he's the knower of all the Vedas. So, but here in these prayers, Brahma is feeling very, very insignificant. Even though he's the knower of all the Vedas, he's saying, I'm most foolish. Even though he's got 8 eyes, he's thinking I'm blinded by false pride. So in this way, Brahma is realizing his insignificance in this Gita. Why? Because when he decides to test Krishna, one day Krishna is playing with his cow boyfriend, and so he decides to kidnap all the cows, because the cows have fallen away. So he decides to kidnap them and put them in a cage. And then when Krishna goes around looking for them, he doesn't want the children to be disturbed from the eating the lunch. Finally, they eat lunch because they're so busy playing, they have no time to eat. So the demon comes and Krishna says, and then after that, all these kids say, his friends say, okay, let's eat. Because when Krishna finishes his big job of killing a demon, then everybody remembers that they are hungry. And how the mothers have packed all these lunch boxes. So Krishna didn't want his friends to be disturbed. So he said, I'll go alone. And as soon as Krishna goes looking for the cows, then Brahma comes and he kidnaps all his friends. And he also puts them in the cage. And by his mystic potency, he puts them in Nidra, in other words, fall asleep. And then he goes away. And then exactly after 1 year of our time, which is Brahma's moment, he comes back and he sees that he checks for the cave and he sees, oh, everybody is still sleeping. Let's see the fun now. What Krishna is going to do. And so when he goes to see, the kids are already there, his friends are already there, playing with Krishna, as though nothing has happened. He's very bewildered. He goes back to the cave and checks again. And he's sleeping. So he keeps back and forth, checking back and forth. Imagine Lord Brahma, who knows everything. He's completely bewildered. And he goes back and forth. Finally, he's completely confused. He's actually suffering a lot. And the reason why he's suffering a lot, we all know that mental confusion is worse than, any other confusion. When a person goes through mental troubles, we know that he may even commit suicide. All the suicide that you see in the world is due to mental problems, right? Nobody commits suicide due to physical disease. So this was Brahma's condition. So he was very, very disturbed, very agitated. And he was thinking, how can I, Brahma, be covered over in this way? After all, I'm Brahma. And then Krishna, he feels sorry for him. And so he takes the place of all these different cow friends and cows. So he takes their place, and Brahma sees these forms turning into Lord Narayan forms. So millions of cow friends. And all these forms in Lord Narayan, they're offering prayers to him, stuti. All the demigods, the different potencies, shaktis, they're all praying to Krishna and offering obeisance. And so Brahma is very even worse. His condition is even worse. What is this? And then Krishna takes pity on him, and then he turns back again into these cows. And then what does he see? And then he sees this little boy, Krishna, with a little mound of rice mixed with yogurt in his left hand, looking everywhere for his friends, wondering what's going to happen. Why don't we take these friends back home? What are their mothers going to say? I must take them back home, and the cows. So say, then Brahma realized, oh, this is my Lord. He is the source of my Lord divine. Krishna is the source of my Lord divine. And Brahma takes his four helmets, his head and his body, and bows at the feet of Krishna. So this is how he offers these prayers. They are, really prayers of deep philosophy and realizations that Prabhupada wanted us to invite them and actually use it in our life. So let me read one of these prayers, a very famous prayer. Tate nukamma susameshamano bunjala evatma kritam vipakam yadva kapurhi vidadhan namaste jivete yo mukti pade sadaya. My dear Lord, one who honestly waits for you to bestow your faultless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Srila Sridhar Prabhupada, Divine Grace, Srila Sridhar Swami explains in his commentary that just as a legitimate son has to simply remain alive to gain an inheritance from his father, one who simply remains alive in Krishna consciousness, following the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, automatically becomes eligible to receive the mercy of the Supreme Personality of God. In other words, he has been promoted to the kingdom of God. The word Susameshamano indicates that a devotee earnestly awaits the mercy of the Supreme Lord, even while suffering the painful effects of previous sinful activities. Lord Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that a devotee who fully surrenders unto him is no longer liable to suffer the reactions of his previous karma. However, because in his mind, a devotee may still maintain the remnants of his previous sinful mentality, the Lord removes the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit by giving the devotee punishments that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. The purpose of the entire creation of God is to rectify the living entity's tendency to enjoy without the Lord, and therefore the particular punishment given for a sinful activity is specifically designed to curtail the mentality that produced the activity. Although the devotee has surrendered to the Lord's devotional service until he is completely perfect in Krishna consciousness, he may maintain a slight inclination to enjoy the false happiness of this world. The Lord therefore creates a particular situation to eradicate his remaining enjoying spirit. This unhappiness suffered by a sincere devotee is not technically a karmic reaction. It is rather the Lord's special mercy for inducing the devotee to completely let go of the material world and return home back to God. A sincere devotee earnestly desires to go back to the Lord's abode. Therefore, he willingly accepts the Lord's merciful punishment and continues offering respects and obeisances to the Lord with his heart, words, and body. Such a bona fide servant of the Lord, considering all hardship a small price to pay for gaining the personal association with the Lord, suddenly becomes a legitimate son of God, as indicated here by the words Daya Heart. Just as one cannot approach the sun without becoming fire, one cannot approach the Supreme Pure, Lord Krishna, without undergoing the rigid purificatory process, which may appear like suffering, but which is in fact a curative treatment administered by the personal hand of the Lord. So here, Brahma is explaining that who is qualified for liberation? A person who, in spite of all the distresses that he gets in his life, he thanks the Lord. He takes obeisances again and again, thanking the Lord for his mercy, realizing that he is responsible for these upheavals in his life, because he is his karma that is making this happen. And instead of blaming somebody, he she actually thanks the Lord for this kind mercy. Because only by these sufferings can one actually call out to the Lord in dire distress. And we all know that, right? How Draupadi, she called out to the Lord when she was in so much trouble, so much injustice was being done to her. And actually at that time, the Lord was in Vaikuntha with Rukmini Devi. And he was playing dice. So when the Lord plays dice, even the dice is our personality, and they help him to win the game. So that day, with Rukmini, he was playing the game and he kept losing and losing again and again. And Rukmini Devi said, "My Lord, what's wrong? You always win the game. Why not today?" And he kept getting distracted and distracted again and again. And the Lord said, "Well, my devotee is in trouble." So Rukmini said, "You need to go to her." And he said, "No, but I don't think I can go there fast enough. It may be too late." And Rukmini said, "Well, you can go on the river. The river will take you very fast over there." And the Lord, he kept playing and playing and playing. And he played another game and he played another game and he kept losing. Finally, he just stopped and he ran. And that was the time when Draupadi actually, when she gave up, she fully surrendered completely to the Lord. And she throws up her hands together and she says, "Oh Govinda, oh Krishna, I'm drowning in the ocean of the water. Please save me." So the Lord is looking when a person surrenders. In other words, when we see Krishna as the only protector, as the only protector. We have so many protectors, so many police, so many soldiers, our family members. But when we actually realize that Krishna is the only protector, that actually they are just simply as instruments, but ultimately it's up to the Lord, right? We know stories of how even having the best doctor, one cannot be saved from dying, right? Even the best doctors, he may be very, very rich, and he can get the best doctor, but we know that unless Krishna wants, he becomes the only protector. So this is such a person, he actually draws out the mercy of the Lord. Now, why do we have to thank the Lord? Why do we have to thank the Lord? The reason why we have to thank the Lord is because we have to understand this nature of the spiritual world is that distress will come some way or the other. That's the nature of the spiritual world. It's temporary. It's full of suffering. But also another point that we have to understand is that the Lord and His position. And that we understand when we go through all the candles. Why are we not jumping into the 10th candle? It's because we have to understand who Krishna is. So the first 9 candles is explaining who Krishna is. Finally, when we appreciate 10th candle. And that's why you see in Krishna book also. Even the Prabhupada really wanted us to invite all the Krishna Lila, because that's where the essence is. It's a Samamona. Yet he talked so much about the nature of the spiritual world. Because he knew that unless we understand what the nature of the spiritual world is, and unless we go through all these sufferings, because we need to cry out in desperation, right? How can we appreciate Vrindavan Lila? We are hearing, but we're not hearing. Why? Because we're thinking of, oh, this is what I want. We're thinking of all our material desires. That's bothering us. So what happens is that's why you see so many people when they hear Vrindavan Lila, it's some kind of entertainment from them, some kind of entertainment from them. They cannot really appreciate it. So in order to really appreciate the essence, the Samamona, one has to go through, understanding who Krishna is. And we understand that through Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, through different stories and through different chapters, that Krishna is the source of all material and spiritual worlds. There's nothing that exists outside of Krishna, right? His one exhalation is the creation of the entire cosmic manifestation. One breathing out. And that's the lifetime of Brahma too. And then one inhalation is where everything rests, goes back into Krishna. which means there's nothing outside of Krishna. Everything's within that. So if Krishna is everything, so whatever he, and is perfect, then whatever he creates, whatever he does is complete and perfect. How can it be incomplete? So in other words, if Krishna, if nothing moves without, even a blade of grass doesn't move without Krishna's will, then how is it possible that something that's happening to us, especially devotees, how is it possible that it's outside of Krishna's will? And we know that Krishna, we may not want to go back to Godhead as much as Krishna wants us to go back to Him. So He's very, very eager to bring us back to Godhead. So naturally, anything that's happening in our life is a perfect situation for us, for our purification. Whether it's a difficult mother-in-law or father-in-law, whether it's a difficult, husband, wife, temple president, or things, devotees, whatever it is, we don't need to change that situation. We don't need to run away. Because it's a perfect combination of things that Krishna is doing for us for our purification. So if we see His, if we don't see His mercy in the bad things that happen to us, we will not be able to see His mercy in the good things that come to us. It's impossible. Because we will be thinking, the false ego will be there. Oh, I was the doer. That's why all these good things are happening. Because I did it. So unless we appreciate Krishna's mercy in our reverses in our life, we cannot appreciate Krishna's mercy in the good things that Krishna does. So when we see that everything is coming from Krishna, then how can we blame the instrument of that karma? If everything is coming from Him. In other words, we are getting what we deserve. Right? In other words, we've done certain things in our life that's creating this karma, good or bad. And how karma works, nobody knows. It's very, very difficult. Right? It's like the example of, I once heard Swami's dad, where he was talking about these silos. In America, we have these silos where you store grains. And they put the rotten grains at the bottom, and then they put all the good grains. So when they open that silo to get the grains, then the bad ones come first, and then the good grains. So in other words, we may be devotees and thinking, I'm doing everything right. I'm chanting my rounds, and I'm just looking at my life now. I'm so changed. All the things that I was doing, now I'm not doing anymore. How can bad things happen to me? Right? When we become devotees, we expect Krishna to be nice to us. Why should Krishna give us all these troubles? Why Krishna is not giving me fame? Why Krishna is not giving me love? Why Krishna is not giving me happiness in my family? After all, I'm a devotee and I've surrendered to Him. It's because all the past bad karma that we've done is coming out first. So we have to, we have to go through that bad karma. But the good will come. If you're doing good devotional things, the good has to come. The same thing, when the good grains come, we see big demoniac people, these sometimes self-serving leaders, right? And how they're getting everything they need, and opulence and money, enjoying like anything. And one gets bewildered and says, well, how can this be? There must be no God. How can good things happen to bad people? God is not just, right? Well, it's because they're enjoying the karma of the good actions that they must have done something. And it's going to catch up. Krishna will catch up and blow them away, right? So it kind of makes sense. So how can you blame the instrument of our karma? In other words, Krishna is giving the repercussions of our own karma. How can we blame somebody who is, feels like he's responsible for it? And very nice examples of our case. The example of like a carpenter. He comes to build your house, and he destroys your house. And you say, look, what happened? How can you do that? He says, well, I didn't do it, my tools did this. Blame my tools. I did not do this. How can you hold me responsible? But of course you're not going to take that, right? A mailman comes and brings really bad news for you. You've lost $10,000 in money. Are you going to smack that postman? How dare you bring me this news? No. It's our own karma that's responsible for it. It's coming from our own actions. So in this way we understand that actually, when a devotee understands that he is responsible, it's his own karma that is creating this situation. And then such a devotee becomes very peaceful and becomes fearless. Because he understands that just to be in this material world, one must have been sinful. Who is going to come to this material world? And we still here in Kali Yuga, which means we didn't make it back in the other Yuga, so we are still here. So pure devotee thinks like that. For me to be actually even to forget Krishna, even for a moment, means that I've been very sinful. Of course, we can't think like that. We are too conditioned, right? But this is how pure devotee thinks. In other words, he feels himself very, very responsible for everything that's happening in his life. And so therefore, he thanks the Lord again and again, thanking him for everything. And it's very natural to blame others. And sometimes people are responsible for your misery. And justice has to be taken. But the devotee doesn't see it like that. That is going on. In the material world, you are either the victim or you're the perpetrator. One of them, right? So justice has to be there. People have to be held accountable for their actions, right? But this is, a pure devotee is not concerned with the justice and injustice of this world. He's so busy in his, chanting and remembering Krishna and doing his service to the devotees. He's not concerned about that. But Krishna is concerned. He knows what is happening and he's going to take appropriate action. But what does the devotee see? How it's just the mercy of the Lord. And how this, and that's why Prabhupada was saying, he has to give us that, these reverses in life, just to eradicate the last remaining tendencies for enjoyment. I mean, just having a material body, you have so many limitations, it's actually impossible to be completely purified in this material body. We can only depend on Krishna when we go back to God, hoping that whatever is remaining, Krishna is just going to wipe it clean and take us back home. It's impossible. So this is how the devotees see. And to blame others actually is not very surprising. Even Yudhishthira Maharaj was thinking like that. One time when he was in the forest, the Pandavas, they went through so much trouble. Anything we could ever think that would happen to us. After, why, he was wondering, he was asking Krishna, you allowed? The Kauravas to burn that house in which we were living without no fault of us. He allowed Bhima to be almost poisoned. And what does people drop these vastakas? And he said, Krishna, we are totally surrendered to you. We don't care about anything. For Pandavas, living in the forest for 14 years, or living in the palace, made no difference. In fact, they may have been happier and calmer. Because their biggest audience was Krishna. They were not concerned, the comforts of material life. They were in fact surrendered to Krishna. And he said, you're the husband of the goddess of fortune? And yet you're putting us through all this trouble, where we're being hounded by Rakshasas for 14 full years, imagine. Not even 1 year or 1 month or whatever. 14 full years. The Pandavas were running here and there, escaping demons, sometimes going hungry, having no food at all. And then Duryodhana was also busy sending the vast money to them. Because further trouble, so much trouble there. And then Krishna recited this famous verse that when I am merciful to somebody, I give whatever they want. I give them whatever they want, whatever they wish. But when I am supremely merciful to somebody, to my devotee, when I am supremely compassionate, then I take away everything. Everything. To the point that he has nothing. He has no relatives, no family, no position. We know that for the Pandavas, they have no position. All their prestige was gone. Everything was gone. So he takes away everything. Their prestige, their wealth. And he has nothing to turn to except for Krishna. People even ridicule them. They insult him. And then, in that condition, the devotee turns to us, Krishna, I'm yours. So this is the point here, is that such a devotee becomes qualified for liberation. And you see this in the lives of so many wonderful pure devotees, especially in the life of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, he was only 20 when he met his Guru Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada. He was only 20. Some friend had taken him to meet this sadhu. And as soon as his Guru Maharaj saw him, he said, as soon as he saw him, he said, you're an intelligent young man. You should take this knowledge and give it, spread it in the West. And Srila Prabhupada was really shocked. He said, here is this sadhu who's meeting me for the first time, and he's giving me instructions, such heavy instructions, serious instructions. And Prabhupada put out some big arguments. At that time he was young, and he was part of the Gandhian movement to gain freedom for India. And he says, well, Krishna consciousness, what you are saying, is simply a luxury. What's more important is to free this country. We need our freedom. And the Guru Maharaj said, no, this is what urgent is to get love of Krishna. The real problem of life is what that old is. And we need to solve that. It's amazing, he said that and Prabhupada was totally convinced. He took this instruction at heart. And it became his life's mission. And for many, many, many years, he did not go to Vrindavan until he stayed in Vrindavan 6 years. So he didn't go to Vrindavan until he was in early 60s. And the way it happened was that even as a brother, at that time, Prabhupada was a grandson and he had his first child. So it was not possible for him to just walk away and fulfill his Guru Maharaj's instructions. But that instruction was always very, very close to his heart. And he started helping the Gaudiya monks in different ways. He would associate with his god brothers. In fact, he was very instrumental in opening the first Gaudiya monk temple in Bombay. And all the time he was meditating on how to fulfill the instructions of the Guru Maharaj. And then what happened was, at a certain point, his business failed. He lost everything. He became bankrupt. And his family was very, very disturbed. What's going to happen? But Prabhupada saw this as a sign from Krishna. And instead of feeling very distressed, he knew he walked away. And his family was very upset. His wife did not cooperate with him, did not want to help him in any of his mission, So anyway, so he walked away. And then he went to Vrindavan. And just imagine, he was bankrupt. When he went to Vrindavan, he did not have a penny in his pocket. And he first went to Keshi Ghat. He stayed there, and then he went to Wasi Ghat. And then he went to Radharani temple. And we know that he stayed there for about 6 years or less. And one day, and And at the age of 69, he just walks away. No money. And he gets, as you know, a seat in the cargo ship, a donated seat in the cargo ship. And he walks away with no money, nothing. Just wanting to fulfill the desire of his spiritual life. Imagine. When I think about this, you know, how he just walks away at the age of 69 to walk away with no money. And on top of that, on the ship he had 2 or 3 heart attacks. Srila Prabhupada was seasick even before the ship left Ocean, Columbus. In other words, the journey was very hard on him. Very, very hard. And you know, we can read it in about his, his troubles didn't end once he got to America. It was not easy because he didn't know anybody. He knew somebody who had sponsored it, but very soon he left there. He went to New York. And what did he do? He would sit under a tree in Thompson Square Park and he would chant the Maha Mantra. And all these young people who were hippies during that time, they were counter-revolution going on. They were rejecting authority. And they were all really coming from wealthy families. And they were confused and bewildered, thinking that, drugs and free sex, this is the way to, getting higher realization. Anyway, so Prabhupada sat there and he would chant. And there were people who followed him to the little place that he had found, the little storefront. And just by doing Srimad Bhagavatam classes, people got interested and started gathering. And this is how he started his first gathering. And these people, and he would feed them. We know that those stories, how he would feed sometimes 20, 30, 40 young, hungry young boys and girls. And so when Prabhupada in Vrindavan, there was a time when he took sannyas. He left for the rest after he took sannyas. Now his Guru Maharaj came 3 times in his dreams and told him, you take sannyas, take sannyas. And Prabhupada was very, very hesitant. This was due to his humility. And finally he realized that no, I have to take sannyas. My Guru Maharaj is coming in my dreams. And he took sannyas. And the day he took sannyas, he was going in Vrindavan. And a bull attacked him, gored him. And he fell down. He fell backwards. And he was writhing in pain. It's horrible, when you get attacked by a bull. The day he got sannyas, what was his mood? Oh, I took sannyas. See how my Lord is so merciful. He's giving me a special mercy. So this is the mood of a pure devotee. Imagine taking sannyas and getting a reaction like that. I mean, it's the highest order. And so this is Prabhupada movement. And we see that, so Srila Prabhupada was because he experienced this in his own life, he was very, very eager that the devotees imbibe this verse, the meaning of this verse, and apply it and use it in their life. How at the bottom of everything is Krishna's mercy and nothing else. And in order to make that point, Srila Prabhupada would give this famous story of Akbar and Birbal. How Birbal, he was a very devout Krishna Bhakta. But he was a minister for Akbar, who was a Muslim king. And Akbar really liked him, and he was very close to him. And so anything that would happen in the kingdom, Akbar would go and ask him advice. He was very wise. And he would say, it's Krishna's mercy. So one day Akbar went on a hunting trip with Birbal. And while hunting, he cut off his thumbs. And he came back. Actually, Birbal was not with him. He came back and he told Birbal that, look what happened. I'm a good man. I'm tolerant of everyone. Why did God do this to me? And Devi said, it's Krishna's mercy. And Aruddha got really angry and he said, what? You are blaspheming me. How dare you say, tell me that is Krishna's mercy. You go to jail. And he put him in jail. And then he had to find another minister. And that minister was very envious of Devi. The king was very good. Anyway, Devi, when he went to the jail, he's also thinking, oh, this is Krishna. And then what happens is that the Akbar goes with his new minister one day on a hunting trip. At that time, those forests were full of decoys sometimes, right? Not all, there were always these ferocious decoys, and they caught them. And they were worshippers of Kalis, so they wanted to offer the king to Goddess Kali, the shopping mall. The more opulent or bigger the person is, the more according to their Kali is pleased. So they said, wow, we have a king today. And they started, undressing him and bathing him and putting on this new dress and suit and everything. And they're coming with this big axe, ready to cut it, chop his head. And then they suddenly noticed, oh, he's not a full man. He's got his thumb off. Half of his thumb is gone. We can't take him. We need a whole man. And he says, hey, here's this minister. He seems like a whole man. Let us get him on the chopping block. And they cut him off. And Akbar comes home and he realizes, oh, my minister was right. This is Krishna's mercy. This is Krishna's mercy. And so he immediately calls people, oh, you can come back as my minister. And he tells them that people, you're right, it is Krishna's mercy. But I came to understand, how is it Krishna's mercy that I put you in jail? And people said, oh, that's simple. If there hadn't been his mercy, I was the one who would have been chopped off. The Prabhupada, one of his favorite stories, when he was trying to make a point with his disciples, his followers, that in every condition of life, it is Krishna's mercy. It's always Krishna's mercy. Whether something good is happening or whether it's bad. And of course, we don't have a problem with good. We have a problem with bad and things we felt like, we wonder why is Krishna doing this. We try to find different ways to get in each other, right? And the reason is our false ego. False ego is one of the most disunifying processes. When we have false ego, we cannot see things as Krishna's mercy. And only when we adopt this idea of everything being Krishna's mercy, can we actually have peace and love within our heart. Then we can actually spread Krishna consciousness to all over the world, or in whatever capacity we can. Because in order to spread peace and love to others, even among our devotees in the temple, we need that within ourselves, isn't it? And the way we get peace and love is we understand that everything that's coming is from Krishna's mercy. And actually, and nobody's to blame. It's the result of our own creation. And we see that in the life of Lord Chaitanya, when Lord Chaitanya was going through the Jharkhand forest, he was showing that even an animal can lose its animosity if there's chanting of the holy name, if there's Krishna Katha going on, all the animosity it can go. This is one place where we lose our envy, right? Our envy. Otherwise, mature life is such that we actually become envious of everyone, no matter who it is. And especially when even our near and dear ones. You see that in Kali Yuga, right? Even among near and dear ones, there's so much quarrel. There's so much animosity. And Lord Chaitanya showed that in the forest, how tigers, he just touched a tiger and he started chanting, throwing up his hands in the air and started chanting next. Then a little further away, he saw a herd of mad elephants. How bad these mad elephants are. can destroy. When a mad elephant gets into a village, he destroys the whole village. Everything. That's why we call it the mad elephant offense, when you're offending people. It's disaster. And he sprinkled water on them, and they were, rolling on the ground and chanting, and in ecstasy. And they were this tiger that he was chanting, and they were following the deer. You know how the tiger eats the deer? But they were kissing each other. So the point that is being made here is that the only thing that can help us, overcome this false ego and this animosity by which we like to blame others is through the process of chanting the holy name and Krishna Katha. And then we can really, really live in harmony with each other. So I'm sure all of you have more realizations on this verse. It's a beautiful verse, and there's so much to be said in this verse. We have so many other examples. The story of Parikshit Maharaj. Amazing story of how he saw everything as the mercy of the Lord. Vasudeva, the great devotee, who did not even, blame the Lord for his leprosy. Such terrible leprosy, blood and, pus was oozing from his body. What great souls like that, who saw Krishna at the bottom of as being the influencing factor in their life. So it's almost time. I have to leave some time for questions if anybody has any realization or question or comment.
Thank you so much, for the wonderful class. This is one of my favorite verses, actually. I refer to it a lot. As you were speaking, I was thinking about a pastime with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He had a disciple who was living in Navadvip, and he became very ill, and he had a certain amount of time left to live. And he knew what the time period was. So he wanted to go and visit his mother because he hadn't seen her for a long time. And his spiritual master ordered him not to go. And then the disciple became quite upset, but then he accepted his spiritual master's order and he didn't go. And then just as he was about to leave his body, his spiritual master ordered that he go. And nobody could understand why is he now ordering him to leave the holy place that he was residing in to go and see his mother. And as he was on the train going to see his mother, he left his body. But it was because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explained that he ordered his disciple in this way because then his disciple was leaving in the mood of separation from the Dham, wanting to be in the Dham but leaving the Dham. So he achieved the highest destination. So I was thinking, sometimes the mercy we get, it's really difficult to understand how it is mercy because it's so hard to tolerate. But ultimately, it's always only because Krishna and Guru are trying to push us towards the highest goal of life. And I was hearing, but I can't remember where, Krishna is willing to put us through any amount of difficulty, even to the extent of almost losing us just to get us to come back. He will make it so difficult that we might even not want to continue anymore. We have to realize he's only doing that because he loves us so much. And of course it's not easy to see that while we're going through some difficulty, but in retrospect, or at least at some point, we start to get some perspective of how Krishna arranged everything so perfectly just to get us to come back.
Very nice, Gangamata. Thank you for your nice revelation. It's true. But Krishna knows how much to lift the bar, how much we can take it. So he gives it gradually. He's very kind. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, thank you so much for a wonderful lecture. I really enjoyed the lecture and so all of them did. And you said people that they're pure devotees with love and compassion and all, and mercy charming the world. And you have to have mercy and love within you so you can pass it on to others. And today you have definitely passed it on to us. It's for us to put into practice. And Prabhupada said purity is a force. And we see the purity in you. Thank you very much. And it's so conceivable in you. Because whatever you spoke had such great potency. And thank you very much for your association and your beautiful lecture. Bless us all. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you. It's our time.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you, Mataji, for a very warm and practical class. Devotees, let us give you announcements. Today's love feast Prashadam has been prepared by the Queen's Paranama, which is led by His Grace Activation Prabhu. Devotees, if you would like to take the opportunity to contribute towards the love feast Prashadam, please contact the Royal Chaitanya Prabhu. In the next is announcement Rath Yatra. Very exciting news. After 3 years of absence, we now will be hosting the Durban Festival of Chariots starting on Easter Friday, 7th of April. That day the program will include the chariot procession along the Marine Parade, and that will be followed by 3 days of Sadhu Sangha Festival. More details on Rath Yatra will follow soon. In the last announcement is this Thursday, the 16th of February, is Ekadashi. One more announcement. Mataji's Aruddha Devi Dasi's books are on the book table, so if anybody is interested, please go have them. We'll now observe Hare Krishna.